Hello and welcome back to the Talking Point with me, Chris Jack and Stevie Clifford, where we take an in-depth look at one of the major issues on or off the pitch at Ibrox, as we have discovered since starting this show, of which there are many. It's been quite the season so far, of course, and we are here this time to look ahead to what's been on the fixture calendar for quite some time as a really potentially defining 90 minutes for Philippe Clement. It's not a European game, it's not an Old Firm game, it's not a cup final, but in that ranking of fixtures that Rangers face in the season, a trip to Pittodrie is certainly up there. So Stevie, here we are. This game is finally upon us. As I said there, it feels like it's been a long time coming. People talking about the importance of this one. Where do you think the Rangers are as now that we're on the eve of a cold, wet, miserable Wednesday evening in the northeast?
Difficult question, isn't it? Because one week it's good, the other week it's not so good. So remember that Reno Gattuso clip? Sometimes good, sometimes not good. Well, that's kind of where we are, isn't it? And listen, there's context which we've discussed before about Philippe Clement in the summer and what he's had to do and the situation, and he's found himself repeating it in previous weeks as the pressure is slightly ramped on him, Chris. I think that's fair. I think this is a defining game for Philippe Clement. I think it's a defining game for our season because let's be brutally honest, if we go up there and we get beat on Wednesday night and we go 9 points behind, and you can forget about Celtic now, right? Just push them to the side because they look like they're going to be very difficult to beat, never mind catch this season by anyone. So push them to the side. If we go 9 behind Aberdeen, then I think it's potentially really, really difficult to get second back, even at the start of November, because that's the position we'd be in 9 points behind. So I think this is defining. Do I think it could lead to Philippe Clement getting sacked? No. I think it could lead to Philippe Clement, that discussion starting again. And I think that's exactly what will happen because the pressure from certain areas of the support will be that. Well, I think that's fair. But there might be a reluctance from the board members because of their current situation to go down that route again. And plus the inevitable, £5 million guesstimate that we would probably have to pay to relieve the management team of their duties and get somebody else in. Because it's always around about £5 million for us, isn't it? So that's a fair guess because we don't know. No, I'm just trying to generalise a wee bit. It's going to be round about that much. We're not going to want to pay that. And then a new manager comes in, you get the inevitable boost, then they buy their own players, and then we find ourselves back here in a year. That's what's happened. Gio, Beale, now Clement. So, preferably, Chris, we'll just go up to Pittodrie on Wednesday night. We'll shut up shop. We'll keep them out. And then with 20 minutes left, very much Pedro-esque, we'll score 3 quick goals. Sub on Dodo to go and do that again. Because it was him that done it last time, I think, if memory serves me right. And then we'll get our 3-0 and up the road. But no, listen, I think a defining game, Chris, and I'll put it back to you as well, is exactly where we are. We'll go into selections and the problems that we've had and things like that. And they've been highlighted from Kilmarnock to Stoya to St Mirren, I think, perfectly before this game. But you've asked me, where do you think we are and how do you think this game is in terms of the bigger picture of this season?
The piece that I've got on the site, looking ahead to this game, I describe Aberdeen as being a problem for Philippe Clement, not just because that's the next opposition for him, not because that's the next team that he has to try and beat with a Rangers side that I think, as we all know, is not firing, it's not performing, they're not in a great place. That's a problem. The bigger problem is they are 6 points ahead. It's never going to be acceptable or palatable to the Rangers support to be 6 behind Celtic at any stage, let alone this early in the campaign. But if you're rational about it and you take a step back, you can understand why Rangers would be 6 points behind Celtic, because they are not anywhere near as settled, don't have the squad. Also lost the first Old Firm game, which plays a big part in that. So you can rationale why there would be that Old Firm gap. Rangers should not be that far adrift of Aberdeen, though. Aberdeen, in that regard, are a problem, because we've been in so many of the press conferences that Clement has held this season. How many times has he said new players in the building, new squad, time, patience? Aberdeen went through not as big a rebuild in terms of players going out and players coming in. I think they had 5 new players started the win over Dundee United at the weekend. The 6th new player came off the bench and scored the winner. Now, that's not at the same level of Rangers bringing in double figures, but they do have a new manager, which Rangers don't. Clement, obviously been here for more than a year now, should have a handle on Scottish football, should have a handle on the club, the expectations, and so many other factors. Now, I don't buy into Aberdeen being title challengers. You would imagine at some point, like we saw with Hearts, for example, they had a great start and it then fizzled out. You would imagine Aberdeen at some point will fizzle out. By the time you get to the third meeting between these sides, it'd be really surprising if Aberdeen were still neck and neck with Celtic. I don't think that's going to happen. But as you alluded to it there's every chance they could still be ahead of Rangers, especially if that 9-point gap opens up. That's a lot of ground to make up for Rangers. Again, Rangers fans would say it's only Aberdeen. You should be able to make that gap up. But what have we seen from Rangers over the course of the first couple of months of the campaign to suggest that they have a run of form that could be capable of actually pegging Aberdeen back? If they can go on runs where they're winning 7 or 8 out of 9 or 10 games, that's really tricky for Rangers to peg back, because they don't look like being able to put together a run like that. So I think you summed it up perfectly there. It's a really, really important game for Clement, both in terms of the title race, whatever title race Rangers are going to be in terms of being able to beat Aberdeen to at least finish second. But for his future, I think this will answer a lot of questions about not just the mentality of the squad, but the quality of the squad. Do they have what it takes to go and win one of these statement games? This isn't a sneaking past St Mirren at Ibrox or just having enough to get past a Dundee or St Johnstone. This is a bigger ask. And I don't think the couple of thousand Rangers fans or the several hundred Rangers fans that make the trip up there on Wednesday night, how many of them are travelling in hope and how many of them are travelling in expectation. Because as we've seen, this side, it just doesn't look capable of winning those big games.
That's the I think the $1 million question surrounding this squad, and whether or not, Chris, Kilmarnock away and St Mirren at home results and performances is our level, because you chuck in Hibs at home, Hearts away, Dundee United away, we're all 1-0, 1-0, 0-0. The question surrounding this is Ross County 6-0 victory an outlier when Motherwell was 2-1 at home as well, or Hampden temporarily our home at that point? The question is that we have to face is this squad at this moment in time, at least until we limp into January. Are we going to be limping into January? Is that the question? And this could go two ways for Philippe Clement, because if Rangers go up there on Wednesday night and get turfed over, then a lot of people would just go, done. Mm-hmm. That's me. Even the ones that are his loyal all-time supporters. And I'm a wee bit on the fence with regards to Philippe Clement. You know that I am a fan of his, but equally have reservations about how he does certain things, how he conducts certain things, etc. And I think that's natural. I think it would be wrong to have blind loyalty, which I've done in the past, and that doesn't really work either. So I'm a bit more reserved with this. But if we go up there on Wednesday and don't win, then I think we know where it leaves us. And I think that is maybe not quite protest, but it's certainly a vocal element of the support will start saying he needs to go. That'll turn on to the board, I think, as well. Or maybe even turn on to the board first. At this point last year, when Michael Beale was removed, remember the sack the board chants were very audible. That's all potentially returning if this goes wrong. However, flip that on its head and Rangers go up there, get a really good performance and result. That then becomes a completely different. You've answered your question then. Why does this team not win big games? Because all of a sudden Philippe Clement can go Malmo, Steaua Bucharest, Aberdeen away, and then if he adds Motherwell at the weekend, he's in a cup final again. And yeah, it's not been a great start. He would find himself 6 points away from Celtic. But you have then a momentum building slowly. So it's a real 6-pointer. And not only is it a 6-pointer, it's a real defining moment in Philippe Clement's Rangers reign. I only remember, Chris, funnily enough, I only ever remember it being like this once in a Rangers manager's career, and it was Alex McLeish when he went up to Aberdeen, and it was a League Cup game on a Tuesday night, if memory serves me right. Fernando Rickson scored a wonderful free kick. Stephen Thompson scored the second after Bob Malcolm had been sent off kind of fairly late on, and Rangers beat Aberdeen 2-0 at Pittodrie. Alex McLeish went from strength to strength after that, and that year we secured a double. I'm not suggesting Philippe Clement can do that, but that was pretty much resounding. People were saying, if you don't win tonight, you're out of job. Philippe Clement maybe isn't out of a job, but if he doesn't win, it's a hell of a long way back. How did this team win this? It needs something that we probably haven't shown so far this season, certainly, which is, I'll fire this question back to you and then I'll try and answer it myself before we get there. How do you foster a kind of spirit and determination that we haven't seen so far? Did we see it in Malmo? Maybe a wee bit. Maybe a wee bit. But that's an outlier for me because we certainly didn't see it at Rugby Park. We saw a team at Rugby Park that didn't know what to do. We saw a team at Rugby Park that didn't know how to break them down, didn't know how to combat a low block, and didn't know how to play. Now, the good thing about Aberdeen tomorrow is they will potentially come out a wee bit, which suits us, I think, perfectly. But you've seen against St Mirren, Rangers didn't like the physical side of it either. This isn't a question of saying, to win this game on Wednesday night, we need to handle the big boy up front, Gaye, or we need to take care of Duke, or we need to match Graham Shinnie. This is about turning Rangers into something that they've not done already, Chris, which is athletic, powerful, pace, because we don't have those things. Rangers have been up to Aberdeen, I think, the last 13 games, and 7 of them they've not won. So it's already a problem, as you alluded to, and it's even bigger problem at Pittodrie, a sold-out Pittodrie that will be foaming at the mouth even more than it normally is, and very hostile. So how do Rangers suddenly turn themselves into this physical, athletic, speedy team that you need to win a game like Wednesday that we haven't shown so far in any games? That's the biggest question. And there's not really, I'm not sure that I can answer it, so I'm happy to see how you're going to answer this. Because I think that's what we need to win this game on Wednesday. There might be a few personnel, Chris, but I think we need that outlook that we've not shown.
I think when you reference Kelly there, that's, I think for a lot of people that will be the biggest like thing that's in their mind. Is this going to be another Kilmarnock style performance where it's on the ball, it's slow and it's sluggish? Off the ball, you're second to every 50-50. You don't win your challenges. You don't show enough. I wrote a piece after, I can't remember after what game it was up at Pittodrie last season, and it's this theory of Aberdeen's a tough place to go. Tynecastle's a tough place to go. Easter Road's a tough place to go. The only place in Scotland I think is a tough place to go for Rangers is Parkhead, because there's so much against them there. And mostly, as we've seen in recent seasons, Celtic are a better team with better players. That makes Parkhead a really difficult fixture. The rest of them, yes, Easter Road, Pittodrie, Tynecastle, they've all got their unique circumstances in terms of the fans and fans and players, managers, and some examples being fired up for these games. But Rangers go into these games with far bigger budget, on paper a better team, but they make these games more difficult for themselves, and they have to be. And I think it feeds into what you're touching on there, what we spoke about after Kelly. I always remember back in my Evening Times days doing Big Derek Johnson's column on a weekly basis, and a lot of the time we were discussing these games, he always used the Jock Wallace phrase of win the battle and win the war. And what he was getting at was, you go to these venues, you do the basics, you win your 50-50s, you assert yourself in a physical manner within the laws, obviously not going OTT. You don't go out to try and lay down a marker by being rash. But if you do the basics in these games, you then should have, or you back yourself to have the football quality to go and beat Aberdeen in a football sense, to go and beat Hibs or Hearts in a football sense. And I think that's what Rangers have to show. On paper, they do have good players. They do have players who can go and cause Aberdeen problems. Tierney, for example, is in a good run of goal scoring form. I think we all like the look of the midfield three: Barron, Raskin, Diomande. Other side, Barami, I think, has had a good start to his Rangers career. Dessers is Dessers. He could score, or he could be an absolute mile off it. Who knows what Cyril is going to do up there? But Rangers should have, and they do have, the quality to go and beat Aberdeen. But you know that first 10 minutes will really set the tempo for it. If Aberdeen are the ones that look the more likely to win those 50-50s, if Aberdeen are the more physical, athletic side, then it becomes a hard way for Rangers to get back in, because it's only a fortnight since they didn't do those basics at Kilmarnock. I think we both agreed fairly early on. You were also down there that afternoon. You could tell early on how this was going to go. It had Kilmarnock 1-0 written all over it from fairly early on, because Rangers, they never got going, they never asserted themselves in the game, and never gave themselves a chance for their higher quality players, with all respect to Kilmarnock, never gave themselves a chance to actually go and show it on the pitch. And for me, that's the big thing heading into Pittodrie. It's a mentality issue as much as a quality issue. And do Rangers have that mentality to rise to, as you pointed out, a packed out Pittodrie? We know what the atmosphere is going to be like. If you're a Rangers player, you have to handle that. If you can't handle that, sorry, but you're at the wrong football club.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's funny because all the best teams that we've seen in the past have thrived in those atmospheres and thrive under. I mean, this should be a fantastic chance for this Rangers team to reset, get the synergy back with the support, get the manager some leeway. It should be, and they should be up for it. They should be ready to battle and things like that. But it's interesting, Chris, because I'm going to throw this back at you a wee bit as well. How do you win this game on Wednesday? How do we win this game? Because it's the biggest question. It's not like you've got a team where you've got 10 out of 11 must start. And, you know, there's a lot of questions there. And how does he get it right? And the thing with Philippe Clement team is, as we discussed pre-match and on Sunday against St Mirren, you can't really predict a Philippe Clement team as it is. So how does he win this? And how does he set up? I think there was some answers to some questions on Sunday, but I'm interested to see how you go and how you approach this.
I think we also pick our predicted teams for the website ahead of every game, and it's probably the most thankless task that Joshua asked me to do, because no matter the Twitter reaction to it and some of the social media reaction to it, always just makes all of us laugh, because you can never please everyone, no matter what side you pick. There's always someone says, "I cannot believe you've done that," or why is he playing? And I think that the number of times, maybe talking like 60 games or so I've done over the last year or so, I think I maybe got it spot on 3 times. Picking a 1 to 11, he's a very, very difficult man to go and actually second guess, as you say, what he's going to do. I think one of the big talking points is centre half. Now, when I mentioned there about being physical, about being athletic, about being powerful, about being quick, about winning your individual battles, all of those things right now for me don't apply to Robin Proper to play centre half. They do apply to Casemiro to play centre half. I think that would be a big call from him. I believe that would be the right way for him to go. I think ahead of that, we've seen it on the show, we've seen it on social media over recent weeks, this clamour almost for him to change the system. It's not going to happen. This is the way that Philippe Clement wants his Rangers side to play football. This is the style that they have worked on when he first came in. This is the work that they put in during pre-season. This shape, this format, this way of playing, this is it. He's not suddenly going to think, no, Pittodrie's a great chance to go and play 3-5-2. Let's go and try something that we've never tried in a game before. Because Aberdeen away, it's just the perfect chance to go and do it. It's not going to happen. So it will be the same format. And ahead of that back four of Tav, Casemiro, Suter or Balogun, I think there's not really much in there for me in terms of who plays. JFT obviously at left back. I think it almost picks itself. It's Barron, Raskin, both really impressive the last couple of games. Nico Raskin especially, which is really good to see. Diomande plays as 10. The options off the left-hand side are limited given injuries, so it's Bayrami, Cherney off the right, and now I mentioned that Mandesers through the middle earlier on. I think the team always picks itself outside that centre half question. You asked the manager about Casemiro on Sunday. I thought that the point you made was spot on. Rangers didn't look that nervy heading into that last period of the game once he was on the pitch. And how many times have we seen Rangers being a goal ahead and you know that teams are going to be direct, they're going to have free kicks, they're going to have throw-ins, they're going to launch the ball on top of you, try and catch you out, try and be physical against you. It didn't really have that fear heading into that last 10-15. I think Casemiro had a big part to play in that. So I'm assuming he's the man that you would pick in that centre half role as well.
Yeah, I mean, like you say, I think that's the biggest question. Actually, the two centre halves is your biggest question. Mm-hmm. With Balogun, you have pace, which Suter maybe doesn't have, but Suter's not a slouch, so it's not like he's completely slow. Suter also is a very good siege defender when there's balls getting flung in and pressure. And I think he's probably a better defender than Balogun is under those situations. So I'm with you. It's either or. But Casemiro for me is fast, likes a duel, and has recovery pace, which if somebody can get behind, which means, Chris, this has a big factor because I'm going to explain slightly of what I interpreted to happen. It'd be interesting to see if people come in the comments about this. On Sunday, we got deeper and deeper and deeper because the St Mirren forward, and you're going to tell me who he is again because I can't pronounce his name. Olasanya, that's him. He bullied Proper, winning free kicks, winning second balls, and he spooked him, which meant that when he went through, that Rangers team after that went deep. Now, the two defenders, Raskin and Barron, were really close to them, and it meant that the gap to the forward line was massive because everything was shuffled in because they were scared of Robin Proper making a mistake. Robin Proper went off in the second half and Casemiro went in and Tav went in to right back. Now, get to Tav in a minute, but he's also important to this. Casemiro and Balogun have recovery pace and they two pushed a really high line. They were up at the D on the centre circle, which meant the midfield could push. And what you've seen against Bucharest when Connor Barron could win it high and push it on, we started to do that. Now, in the last 20 minutes, off the top of my head, we scored through Cherney. Czerny had a chance that he went in and it was tipped wide. Dessers had a chance when he spun and it got blocked wide, and Dessers went through on goal. 4, what I would say, not gilt edge, but 4 really good opportunities to score a goal. The previous 60 minutes, Chris, we had one shot from Raskin, which Diamandi scored. Bayrami had one at the far post, which he put into the side netting, and Czerny had a run where he drilled a shot right at the goalkeeper. That's what we had in 60 minutes. And it was a game that St Mirren were physically and could come right on top of us and try and play their game. That stopped when that changed, and the whole team then moved up and they began to relax and breed a wee bit of confidence. That's why, for me, Robin Proper can't play. It's not so much a criticism of Robin Proper. Put him away for a wee second of what we think of his ability and everything else. If the team don't trust you, that effect it has on how Clement wants us to play is huge, because the gaps then appear and things like Kilmarnock away happen when you launch a long ball because there's nothing else to do and Dessers is up there and can't hold it up, etc. It's really important to me that Casaveiro plays at centre-half. And by the way, he's played well enough to deserve it. Mm-hmm. So he starts for me. Let's see if he can handle it. Because Proper, I think, hasn't been able to handle it. And I think that's 3 or 4 times he's been subbed off now. So put him to the side for a wee minute. And I think I'm with you. There's an interesting conundrum of, do you take Diamandi out the team and do you put on Dujon Sterling to try and win that battle in midfield? And that then allows Bayrami, Czerny and Dessers to try and play. And you could maybe get Barron and Sterling to be your driving force while Raskin sits. So there is a slight ask. Did Diamandi play so well on Sunday that you couldn't make that change? And I'm not sure he did. So that for me is the only other one. Bayrami starts. Czerny's been in excellent form, 6 goals now, 2 assists. Really, really good for him. He looks like that little talk with Clement has actually really helped him. He looks like he's, and by the way, not everything comes off for him, but he's dangerous again. You know what I mean? When he runs and he looks to shoot because the crowd get up and the defenders are now looking for that, which allows us to do other things. Going back to the Tavernier point, you would have seen this in the press conference as well. Casaveiro calls him the dad of the squad. Mm-hmm. When he came on, the team looked for him. They looked to give him the ball, and he did. He done all right. And that kind of leadership. So there's a question there over it. Would I in time like to see Casaveiro and Sterling play on that right-hand side? There's some energy and power that we've maybe not had. But for Wednesday night, I think that's how Rangers are best equipped to go and win it. I'm not sure, Chris. I've got to be honest with this. I'm not sure Diamandi starts for me on Wednesday. Clement will pick him because it'll be the opposite of what I suggest. But for me, Raskin, Barron, Sterling with Czerny, Bayrami, and Dessers up top. Now, they've got Graham Shinney in there, who always makes it really difficult against us, who plays like a man possessed. So to win that battle goes back to what you said about Derek Johnston winning the battles first. And I think it's the kind of game on Wednesday where you might need to win the battle first. And then I would hope that Jeffy coming forward on the left, Bayrami cutting in, Czerny cutting in, Dessers, that we've got enough in there that can at least cause them problems. And the running power, perhaps, of Barron, Sterling, etc. from midfield can pop up and maybe do something. So 2 questions for me. Does Diamandi start? And who plays at centre-back?
Before we finish off, give me your one Pittodrie memory that stands out for you. My Pittodrie record isn't actually that good. A couple that stand out: the Manchester season, the night that Rangers lost the league. That will always stand out for all the wrong reasons, unfortunately. The other one that comes to mind is the Scott Arfield night. I was working up at Pittodrie that night, and obviously Rangers going into the last few seconds of that game, getting beat. You've got all your stuff written. You're giving them a hard time. Performance not good. Bad result. Everyone's getting a hard time. Arfield then scores, and you rip out bits of it, and you start again. The winner then goes in, literally almost the last kick at the ball, and to rewrite a match report in those circumstances, it takes years off your life. Only guys who have done it will understand the stresses and strains of those particular. It's a real mix of emotions, because it's a fantastic end to the fantastic dramatic end to the game. But you then have to say file. The desks always say file on the whistle. Not quite as easy as that when the whistle follows seconds after a last minute winner. So that's the two Pittodrie ones that stand out for me. Is there any slightly happier memories for you that stand out of your trips up there?
Yeah, they've won twice at games I've been at Pittodrie, which we'll go into. But on your point about destroying match reports, when I used to kind of do a blog report, that's happened to me only once, and it was Hearts at home when Tav scored the late penalty equaliser, right, and then Danilo scored the header. That was a case of just...
It's just not fun.
Delete absolutely everything and start again, so to speak. But 2 wins at Pittodrie. Sunday, I've had a couple of draws. I remember being at one where Davy Weir scored a header in Aberdeen. It was 1 each. And I remember another one that was 0-0 up there. That was a very boring game. Both under Walter Smith. The one win under Walter Smith I had up there, we went 2-0 down really quickly. And then who got one back? So Vice won a penalty. Kenny Miller scored it. And then there was that, the one where it was cut back. Kenny Miller scored the equaliser. And then there was a really weird one. Jamie Langfield kicked out the goal kick and Jig sent it back in. And everybody was offside apart from Naismith, who ran from deep. And then he squared it for Jelavic. And I can still see Jelavic hit that from that day from the angle I thought he'd scuffed it. But of course, we won 3-2 that game. Aberdeen had somebody sent off late as well. And then the other one was the one we went to together. You drove up and you were reporting, and it was 4-2. And it was one where Morelos got sent off. So I'm trying to remember who scored our goals. Alfie scored the first. Tav got a penalty for the second. And then Alfie got the second, actually. So it was Alfie got the first 2 because Kent had the shot for the first one. He put in the rebound. Then the second one was that lovely side foot. Do you remember?
Yes.
His left foot, he steered it in. Tav got a penalty for 3-1. Aberdeen got a really quick goal back for 3-2. Both had 10 men because McKenna and Morelos had been sent off. And then Defoe got the late fourth to make it 4-2. A night where Greg Stewart absolutely tormented us in the second half. So that was a good trip for us because we were up there. We went for something to eat beforehand and stuff, and that was a good trip. So they're my only kind of wins up there. Obviously, when I was a lot younger, there was a very famous game. Rangers sneaked 1-0 where Gorham sat in the ball and stuff. I remember listening to that on BBC Scotland. Hateley got a really late goal from a David Robertson cross, if memory serves me right. And you get some good wins up there. I remember as well, Advocat team going up there and taking 5 off them when I think Thomas Goldberg had scored early, Gabby Amato scored and stuff. So I'm hoping that come Thursday and Friday, we've got something else to add, Chris, to the good memories of victories at Pittodrie, because it feels like, going back to the very first point, that this is a defining night for everyone at Rangers Football Club, because if it goes wrong, then there's going to be a lot of things coming from this.
As you say, it's shaping up to be a really important night for those in the dressing room, for those in the boardroom, and most importantly for those that make the trip up there and that will be watching on and listening in. So as always, you can keep across all the build up, all the reaction, all the action, all the fallout. Hopefully not in a bad sense. Wants to keep across everything regarding this game and all the build up heading into Hampden on Sunday as well. Get yourself onto the Rangers Review website. That's the best way to support all the work that we do on the site. If you don't subscribe to the YouTube channel, please do so. Again, every support, every like, every subscription is much appreciated. It allows us to keep doing what we're doing here on the Rangers Review. Stevie, thanks for your time once again. As always, I shall see you soon. And
I was just going to say, do you know what's even weirder, Chris? I've got a sneaky feeling we just might do it. So there you go. Let's see how we got on.
On that overly optimistic, enthusiastic, and perhaps deluded note, we shall end. Thank you once again.